From the trenches of motorsports and Gearhead Central, this is RealTuners Radio, your all-motor, boosted, and nitrous-fed hour of power. Now, here's your hosts, the Reverends of RPM, the Faction of Traction, John Bewley, Scott Clark, Bill Fowler, Scott Evans, Mark Dahlquist, Mike Perduto, James Short, Tom Sewell, Brian Barnhill. This is RealTuners Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to RealTuners Radio. It's Wednesday, June 17th, and some of us are getting ready for Rocky Mountain Race Week, which starts next week. Hopefully you're back to racing and your local tracks are opening back up. Tonight's host will discuss whatever you want to talk about, so let's go ahead and get the party started. Welcome, everybody, to RealTuners Radio. All right, what's going on, everybody? How are we doing? Let's go ahead and bring the guys in here. Gentlemen on the Ring Central chat, what's going on, guys? How you doing tonight?
What's going on?
Hey, everybody.
Pretty much the same old stuff.
Howdy.
Is everybody back to racing now, or what?
Last 2 nights in a row.
I wish. Season delayed till September.
God.
You got to get out of the Northeast, bro.
I live in.
That's all FD. That problem is we run on the West Coast so much.
I live in like the black hole of racing for the entire United States. I have to live vicariously through all of you.
No, a bunch of guys are back at the track. I just I probably have some events to make, but everyone's traveling, so it just hasn't fit in the schedule yet. But everyone wants the car now, so dyno every day.
And they all want them done right now. Right now.
Yeah. And then, yeah, they can't get parts or fuel or whatever. And yeah.
Definitely have some pretty cool projects going on. I'm already reading questions. I'm already seeing where we're going, seeing what's going on. What are we doing tonight? Just questions.
I think Bill needs to give us a tour of the car getting ready for Rocky Mountain Race Week is what I think.
Bill's not home yet, though.
And you'll get that tour after I get to the shop. Scott, you missed the part where I explained that we just finished adopting out a Roddy dog. So,
congratulations.
My day has run a little late.
Bill and his lady are out touring around.
I can't show anybody anything at the moment.
Cool.
That'd be us.
Member. The only racing.
But yes, we're in full Rocky Mountain Race Week thrash prep mode.
Seeing Carolina Dragways back open.
Things is nice.
Carolina Dragway open back up. Yeah.
Yep.
The racetrack that said they were having a protest and they had 2,000 attendees.
And then they got shut down by the local government.
Yeah, they were reviewing it, and I'm wondering if there isn't a court case pending for that. Has anyone heard anything?
I haven't, but I also haven't followed up.
Mexican Kentucky.
Yeah, unless that state is one of the states where their Supreme Court finds that the governor's shutdown orders are unconstitutional, which has happened in 2 states so far, then their odds are pretty slim. Or as they used to say, the odds are slim and none, and slim just left.
I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Clark, the video has frozen, just so you know.
I think it came back.
It might have. Oh, yep. I see it moved. Well, it moved.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. We got good stream out. I'm showing no packet loss. Continue on, gentlemen.
Any word on Drag Week?
Sorry?
We got a question. Has anyone heard anything on Drag Week? Are they canceling? Are we doing this? What are we doing?
On, right?
I haven't heard anything else.
I heard from a highly placed source inside of Drag Week, who I'm not at liberty to name, that there is going to be Drag Week no matter what, even if it's only one track and they have to go drive out and come back every day. There is going to be an event.
I dig the determination.
The problem was that the original starting track and 3 of the other tracks, meaning, all of them basically, were located in states that have decided to stay locked down. So the problem was they basically had to get all new tracks. So they're in the process of doing that.
Okay. Well, that's good news then. At least we'll still have drag week of some form to go on. Rocky Mountain Race Week. I think people are over this, man. I think people are ready to go back to normal. Let's get this behind us and go.
Yeah, so the tracks for Rocky Mountain Race Week, Pueblo has announced that they're even going to allow spectators. So it looks like literally by the time this thing actually starts on Tuesday, that the tracks will not only be open for the event, but they'll be open for spectators. Now, if anybody's been to Bandimere, the spectators that will show up for an event like this, they won't have any problem social distancing because that's an NHRA national event level track, and they got lots of bleachers.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of the local events, even like small events, started opening for limited spectators around the Midwest and stuff like that, down in Florida, in Atlanta. But still no spectators here in New England at anything.
I'm sort of curious to see what happens at the first Trump rally.
That racist.
We lost him.
Caused COVID-19.
You're going robot, Bill.
Do you think it'd be possible to talk about race cars? Could we have one thing where we don't get into politics?
That's a good question.
Please,
How possible is that?
please for me.
My wife just made ice cream cake, so I'm distracted by that right now. So I'm sorry.
Dude.
So,
I
guys,
can show it to you.
we have a listener, Joe West. Apparently, they own a shop called West Racing Fabrication. They bought the Arnie Bestwick bought the original Tameless Tiger 2 body that caught on fire back in the day, and they're going to turn it back into a pro street car. I have to pull up that. I remember that car.
That car still exists. I mean, in any form whatsoever, is astounding. For people on the podcast listening that don't know, Arnie Beswick was a very famous racer starting out, I think, late 50s, early 60s, who became best known for a series of GTOs, ultimately ending up in some of the first, gassers, which then morphed into the exhibition cars, the FX cars, and then ultimately some of the first flip-top funny cars. And the Tiger 2 that burnt to the ground, to my recollection, was one of the AFX cars that was sort of an intermediate step from sort of overblown super stockers with altered wheelbases to the first of the flip-top funny cars. Had a really bad fire, was burned very badly in it, and then built another one and kept on racing.
I dig it. Apparently, the 2 fans behind my head on my video resemble twin turbos. I'm being messaged right now.
Why is one spinning twice as fast as the other?
They have this breeze mode, so they randomly go up and down the simulate. We're in Florida, okay, Brian? I know you're up there still, probably snowed in or something.
Hey, I had to recharge the AC in my GTO today. I will say I drove home freezing, refusing to turn it down because it's the first time it's worked in 6 or 7 years. Now, given the car's only been driving for about 4 months in 6 or 7 years, but. Yeah, we're in June, and actually the AC isn't even on our house right now. We turned it off.
Yeah, no.
So I have a question that came via text message to me. And the question is, in a not quite max effort, naturally aspirated engine at the drags that runs on pump gas, would running it on E85 with no other changes other than...
No, we're losing you. But I think your question is, can we switch from 93 to E85 and make any more power doing nothing but tuning?
That's the question. Yes.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's the right answer.
It depends on how shitty your pump gas tune is.
Right.
If your pump gas tune is total junk, you're going to see a big change.
Yeah.
In general, my personal experience, and this may be different for other people, my personal experience has been very, very minimal differences, like a couple of horsepower difference naturally aspirated. When you get to the level of a turbo, you see a little bit more because there's bigger numbers and bigger differences at that point. But again, it still comes down to the tune. In general, when we switch a car from 93 pump gas to E85, it tends to be still pretty close, within 10 or 15 horsepower most of the time at the 1,000 horsepower level. Of course, this isn't always the case, but that's generally the case.
Yeah, it depends on, if are you knock limited? If you're knock limited, then obviously a fuel that's going to let you run more timing is going to make more power. We'll take my Miata, for example. Pump gas versus E85. I don't push it hard enough. I don't find knock, but, we stop at the point where it stops getting torque on pump gas. And we do see about a 10-ish horsepower difference on E85 on that particular car.
So like 50%?
Yeah, I mean 10 horsepower in Miata, it's amazing. But yeah, it really depends. FRSs pick up a ton of horsepower on E85 because it's a shitty boxer engine that doesn't make any power, or it's not very efficient. So yeah, no, they're kind of the same. They're almost worse than Miatas. Stock, they make a little bit more than a Miata for a 900-pound gain. So the answer is maybe.
Here's the
very dependent on what's already going on.
Can we get with the big elephant in the room that everyone wants to talk about, that everyone's asking about right now? The Viper from the 60 roll sitting next to the Mustang at the dig.
How's that
and
going?
how this is going to play out?
What's going to happen?
Even I was asking about that.
Endless arguments about who launched, who left early, or blah blah blah, whatever.
That's where I see it going.
Okay.
If
how do you police this?
I don't know. So the way it's supposed to go is Derek Kelly has to see the back bumper out of the Viper before he's allowed to leave. Now, assuming he's not going to wear a Hans device so he can look straight left. So basically, the back bumper of this Viper needs to be at his driver's door before he's allowed to let go of the button.
Oh, and Viper's got to be going 60 miles an hour. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, of course I'm going to set up my rolling anti-hetero or anti-lag or whatever it's called.
So when's the Viper allowed to come off the anti-lag? When he passes the door as well?
Yes, when he crosses, when his back tire, whatever that point is, the Viper gets to go right then.
Basically, as soon as he breaks the beams, he's allowed to let go of his button and start going above,
Yeah, I mean, how are they staging this? Like,
so the 60 roll guy is going to be coming from somewhere behind in the staging lanes and getting up speed to get to the line by 60 miles an hour. And then in general, that's what they always do at roll races.
I was going to say, so in theory, you could have the Mustang staged in the lights, and I guess as soon as the front bumper hits, though, so you'd have to figure out where
the Mustang just like normal, and the Viper is going to roll. Basically, as soon as that car lights up the track bulbs, as soon as he sees them flicker the single and double bulbs, that basically he's at his bumper. He's good to go at that point.
I was going to say at that point that's the front bumper at the beams. That's not the rear bumper at the
right.
Yeah,
but
it's going to be going so fast.
By the time he actually reacts,
I guess that's true. Yeah.
It'll be that point. That's all it has to be. He just has to light those. Basically, he has to light both bulbs before he lets go of his trans brake button.
So Derek needs to be watching the other lane stage bulbs. When he sees those things flicker, he's going.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. So at that point, you got lights. You know if someone jumped or not. The only thing you don't know is if someone was going too fast.
Right.
Yeah, but he's toast. Yeah. If he waits until the stage beams flicker, and then has to react, now he's down another 4/10 or so.
But that's because Bill, he's not allowed to leave until he sees the back bumper of the Viper.
Yeah, but the point is, if he starts the reaction, this is what I'm saying. If he starts to react,
he can't start the reaction before he sees it. That's part of the deal.
That's
start to
my
react
point.
until he sees the bumper, which means he can react when he sees that double bulb, because at that point, if he was turning his head left, the speed of 60 miles an hour is so fast that that 150 milliseconds of a blink is enough to get the back bumper to the beams.
Oh, and before the tire cracks, the guy's going to have 6, 7, 10 cars on him, right?
And that's what we're talking about now.
No, I think the arguments will go on forever unless one of the two puts an absolute beat down on the other car where there's no arguing it no matter what.
Well, here was my standpoint, and they didn't want to read it. Well, the guy with the Viper, I said, Derek's in a win-win situation. Besides the fact he made the call out, which kind of sucks. If he loses, he lost to a car that got a 60-mile-an-hour head start. It was figured upon. If he's even close to his bumper, I mean, if it's even a close race, Derek won. He tied a car that he gave a 60-mile-an-hour head start to. If Derek wins, he whooped a car that he gave a 60-mile-an-hour head start to. Derek can't lose in this, in my opinion.
It's a 9,400 horsepower Viper.
Yeah.
Now, since I've never done roll racing, I have nothing intelligent to say on it other than I've read multiple times that there are a lot of cars that will actually still ET quicker from when they break the beam, even though they started at a roll when they start from the dig, as opposed to doing the roll. Is that true in anyone's experience?
We've seen usually the ET's quicker. The mile an hour out the back door is about the same as if the car made a clean drag race pass. Because especially if they're going quarter mile, it goes back to the theory, Bill. If you go out and make a rip in your car and go 1320 and go out and make the same rip and shut it off 1,000 foot, the ET will be almost identical. The mile an hour is going to go down. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So basically, all he's doing is he's taking away that last. McMurtry says it's 88 feet per second. So let's say it's at 60 mile an hour, you're going 88 feet per second.
I'm doing that exactly. It's going to take 1.99 seconds from the front of the Viper to the back of the bumper at 60 miles an hour.
1.99 seconds?
0.199.
There's a better way of looking at it when they're velocity
seconds.
per second.
Yeah,
I like that, Brian. I like the way Brian's looking at that. Yep.
I'm with that.
Yeah,
so if you take 0.2 seconds, let's say it's 0.2 seconds, and the average reaction time on a 400 Pro tree, Bill, call it a 100 tree. Let's call it a slow tree. So let's call it a 500 light. So Derek has to be 0.6 of a second faster to the quarter mile.
And how's Derek going to time it where he's got enough boost to leave hard without burning that thing down?
That was my next question.
Taylor DeLosa called that out on the YouTube chat. And I think he's right. The chances that Derek's going to get
that's going to be having that's kind of easy to do. So the way you have to do is you have to have a spotter who can tell you when to start spooling up. You have to have somebody you trust to be able to tell you that guy is rolling towards the line, because he's only going to be a couple seconds rolling into the line, right? Yeah. It's when he's getting close. So you can still get on it. And even if you're 5 or 6 seconds, you're still within that 7-second tree that most people are afraid of. You're probably still okay even at that 7 seconds.
0.166 seconds.
Oh, so not yet.
Scott Liggett, I love you. This argument sounds like what we used to get in fights about in high school.
That's what I was just about to read. Scott Liggett, I agree. In my opinion, if you had to ask for a 60 mile an hour head start, you should have parked your shit in the back 40 and left it there. That's just my opinion.
Oh, Scott has the gift of stating the
I was talking. There was some drama going on at some events in drifting this week. I'm like, you know what? Drag racing has way more drama than drifting at this point.
We're going to convert Barnhill eventually. He's slowly coming.
Hey, I got some guys that are trying to do some drag racing stuff with an SR car, and it hooks like shit. But he broke his transmission. The first time I told him to leave hard, he calls me. He's like, "Yeah, I broke my transmission." I was like, "I told you you're going to," but
dude, I heard Brian making fun of Lambda. I think the conversion is complete. Completely depussified. He's all good to go.
I can tell the whole story of that later, but it's and we all know the one tuner learns what Lambda is, and if you don't use Lambda, he's just smarter than you.
He's just regurgitating information he read somewhere else on another Facebook post.
Any regurgitator, I don't give a shit what you use. I think the best analogy I used was inches versus millimeters. Doesn't matter which one you use. It's the same length. Because you use millimeters instead of inches, are you smarter? Is your design better? No, it doesn't fucking matter as long as you understand what it meant.
Right.
saying that drag racing is more drama than roll racing or drifting or whatever. That's kind of like saying cage fighting has more drama than figure skating.
I've got a Dahlquist question right here. It says, dumb question for anyone that has experienced mountaintop racing. Aside from the obvious retune, in an NA engine, would you guys change any cam specs, intake runner length, exhaust length compared to, per se, a near sea level engine? Meaning, for example, Pipe Max spits out info, but sea level is not variable. Would it matter?
Compression. More compression.
More compression at altitude?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which we can effectively do a compression, a dynamic compression change with camshaft at some point.
You can, but the air density is still less. And when you change the cam, you're changing overlap and you're changing, events and things. And let's assume that you have the proper valve events for your combination. Adding or subtracting duration isn't going to make any more power or give you any more RPM or anything like that. What's going to help is compression because you're not effectively filling the cylinder. So it's acting more. It just like running a 2-barrel. They react more to compression than they do to camshaft.
I do the same, and I
like even when we were like when we were racing the top alcohol dragster. When we went to Denver, we'd put super thin head gaskets in it to bump the compression up. That was the change we'd make. Like literally, that's at altitude. They want more compression because you're not filling the cylinder.
Trying to brag about roll racing is like saying you beat someone after they gave you 2 lengths and disconnected the nitrous. That's Liggett again.
Disagree. I
have to really, really watch what I say when we talk about roll racing because I'd probably get banned for life for hate speech. So I have to be very careful.
Talk shit, but I have a stupid turbo car on 275s. So, yeah, I'm not going to win anything from a dig, but yeah.
I
Will
still
set it up right.
Yeah, say roll racing is for people that don't know how to set up a car.
Yeah,
I think roll racing is for people that don't want to break everything in the drive lane.
Well, now let's hold on though. Let's look at I don't know, just some of these Vipers and stuff that are set up for roll racing are quite a bit easier to cruise down the highway than a car that's set up strictly for drag racing, which drives like a fucking combine or a grain truck.
You're not wrong with that. That's an accurate statement. You can kind of keep that highway setting in the car.
Yeah, I do dislike that in some of the roll cars I've run in.
But since when is a highway car supposed to be a race car? Do one or the other. Don't try and
when two of them line up to each other. I guess.
Don't try and put a pair of crutches on a car and just say make up a class of quote unquote racing just so that you don't have to change your suspension.
I mean, I get you want to drive fast. That's fun. Like I'm not saying that it's not fun to roll up on another car and race, but yeah, when you start trying to compare the two and find a way to do it and say, oh, my car's faster because it had whatever, I don't know. Just trying to find a reason to fight about something, it feels like sometimes.
I agree with you there.
Yes. A lot of times.
But there's still, some of those cars, I bet that Viper's a hell of a lot more fun at 80 mile an hour down the highway with the tunes on than Derek Kelly's car is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, I have AC on my car for a reason.
Keep talking and Bewley's going to log in here. He's listening going, fucking Clark, son of a bitch, cocksucker, motherfucker. He's going to dial in here in a minute.
Recorded that
Derek Kelly's car is a street car, damn it.
Oh, so it's okay when you do it, when you're
that was at 23 minutes
doing it.
50 seconds, FYI.
What happened? Oh, right.
Yeah, we need to save all of that just as sound clips to play.
No, I just know where that's headed. It's pretty funny.
I mean, it's the same thing. You get into the argument of, oh, that's a street car, that's not a street car, and you're splitting hairs, and like everyone wants to find a fucking loophole.
Yeah, if it doesn't have stereo and an AC, it's not a street car.
I mean, Bill's car is kind of a street car, I guess. I mean, he's doing all kinds of events where you got to drive it everywhere. You can hot lap the car at the track, and it doesn't have a problem. I mean, we pulled back around for a quick hit, and it wasn't any big deal after making a 570 lick.
Yeah.
One of my
Hey,
favorite.
the
One of my
stereo
favorite-
broke in my smart car. Does that make it a race car?
I was gonna say, Bill, a lot of Miatas and Jeeps ship without AC. Does that make them race cars?
My favorite picture that Scott Clark has is of when they were filling up Larry Larson's truck with at the regular old stop and go gas pump. You know,
With
they got the
87,
drag
baby.
trailer behind it, and Larry Larson's truck, and they're just filling it up with 87. And that's one of my favorite photos.
Yeah, really. That's it. Can you drive it and stop at any gas station, more or less? I'll even on if it's a strict E85 car and you can't, put a pump gas tune in it and drive it, then yeah, can you drive it an hour, 2 hours, whatever, to the racetrack and back home if you have to fuel stop? Can you go through a drive-through in it?
Do we really want to go down this rabbit hole of streetcar versus not
No, we
streetcar?
don't. But it's the same. That's the thing. It's the same thing. All we do in any of these arguments is everyone looks for the loophole to be the winner.
I'm going to leave it like this. I think the difference between a streetcar and not being a streetcar is the balls the driver has to drive the fucking thing.
I mean,
I basically
we're
say if you can drive it anywhere, then it's a streetcar. It doesn't matter what functionality it has, but if you can drive it anywhere without having to work on it 24/7 and repair it all the time because you're driving it everywhere, then that's a streetcar. That's my basic rule. I don't care what you do to it.
Yeah,
You
but
want to take
there's
out the
cars-
AC and live in misery, that's fine. You want to take out the stereo and have to listen to your phone earbuds for tunes, that's fine. You want to run it on pump gas, E85, methanol, I don't give a shit. If you can drive it anywhere and have a constant ability to pick up fuel somewhere and you can literally not have to worry about, oh shit, I'm going to have to tow it home, it's a streetcar.
I mean, there's cars that come from the factory now that aren't that good, Scott.
Right. I agree with you.
You put not working on it all the time. I've owned a lot of cars that aren't street cars then.
Kyle Chris of Straight Line Media out there yelling Team Fuel Tech.
Yeah.
He's also Team
Fuel Tech.
Bullhorns because Bullhorns are better than Zoomies.
Oh no, Bewley's not around here. Travis Wise is ribbing him about the hydraulic roller record. Oh geez.
I don't even want to get into that because how do you post a record and not post a dyno video so we can hear it being a second and a half long and know it's not real?
And it's a horsepower number record. I mean, that's stupid. That's Bob Marley shit right there.
If you're
That
gonna
never
post a
happened on good
dyno
dynos.
record
Yeah.
and not post the video so we can see how long the pull was, because for those of you listening, dynos lie. Okay, I know that you guys don't want to hear that, but dynos lie.
What brand of dyno was it on? Whose was it on?
Oh,
It was on Kevin
Scott.
Mullen's Dynocom.
Shocking. I'm totally shocked. That's not the first time that dyno has printed out some crazy number and the car's 20 mile an hour slow. Sorry.
And that's if you're gonna post, and I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna knock on him, but if you're gonna post any form of, hey, we set a record on the dyno, and you can't post a video of the pull so we can at least hear that, 3.5, 4 seconds of knowing the dyno is doing its job and loading the car and actually doing its thing, get the hell out of here. Just don't even post it, man. Like, don't.
Hey, give me a minute. I got to print out a dyno sheet for Barnhill's Miata here so he can set a new record. Hang on.
yeah. All right. Cool.
Is that when you take the weather station and put it on top of the hot cup of coffee so it thinks it's 140 and 90% humidity?
Talking about, you point your
Shit, no.
butane towards that.
I'm just gonna print out a guaranteed certificate of authenticity and hand it to him.
Yeah, done.
Oh, was that from the Marley Engineering group?
Anytime you test something that you built at your shop on your dyno, man, baby, you better post 10 back-to-back pulls, the raw numbers. Frankly, it better not be on an entry-level ass price dyno either. No offense, but there's a reason there's $150,000 chassis dynos and $38,000 chassis dynos out there. But and then again, if you're pushing for some record, to me that's just like the magazine guys doing tests. Yeah, it's crap. Show me something different. Just my 2 cents.
But the dyno sheet said it was right, Scott.
I know it's the dyno sheet, but there's something in the water down there in North Carolina or something.
Horsepower when I did a pull down a hill with 100-mile-an-hour tail breeze.
I'm being told there's a 30-minute video of it on his YouTube channel.
At like 1 frame per hour or what?
I'm assuming it's the full build-up, because we got to get a production company, and I'll have to go check that out later. My bet is the pull sub 3 seconds. Anyone want to bet me?
The pole, the length of the pole.
Yep.
It's on a hub dyno.
Hub dyno.
Oh yeah, with even with 3 eddies. I bet it's less than 2 seconds in boost. It's a 3.8 second pull that I started from idle.
Including gear changes.
The last one of those I've seen, it's just hub dynos in general. And then there's the whole, make me 10 pulls in a row, because every one I've been on is a random number generator, every one of them. Or you can't steady state. Here's me personally, just my personal opinion. Hub dynos are the biggest, the latest. They're the new TBI, right? The new Phytech or Sniper or whatever. It's like all these guys buy them, and of course the guy that spends the money on one, oh, they're awesome. Oh, I love them. And it's funny, all the ones I've been on that are that way, or I had customers go on that I was remoting. I'm like, dude, we're not getting any useful information. I didn't change anything, and it picked up or lost 80 wheel horsepower just now. There we go. Evans, nice share right there. You guys should talk about that some more.
What does the car run is my question.
Yeah, thank you. James with the common sense. Get out of here, James.
Speaking of what's it run, James, what's up with that Camaro? I've seen some videos. What's going on?
Yes, James.
Finally getting some headway on this piece.
Auto trans. Sorry.
Right? Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? Yeah.
So James, you're not getting well into the 4s, right?
Not yet. We actually just broke into the 4s. Actually, it's still geared for quarter mile and all that good stuff, but that's actually changing this week. We're swapping the ring of pinion in the rear, so plan on getting after it quite a bit. Speaking of hub dynos, I'm actually going to one tomorrow with my car, so I can turn it up and actually try to quantify some gains on higher boost levels that I can't hook on mine. So,
You going over to Haltech?
Yep.
I like it.
So James, when you make the change, obviously the gear ratio is one change, but what other things do you anticipate doing to get that car from quarter mile to really working well and optimizing it for the 8th?
Well, it's going to be a little bit crude, and some of the dyno numbers are going to kind of help me in that department. But what I plan on doing is, obviously the gear ratio is a multiplier. So I'm going to kind of effectively figure out what kind of torque it's taking, at what point in the run now with the gearing that it has, and kind of split the difference with the other gear. And obviously I'll have to pull boost and timing or whatever out of it to kind of mimic that same torque value so that I can, hit the ground running. Because, you don't want to go out there and make 15 passes to try to dial something back in. So might as well use what data you've got in front of you to generate, a boost curve, timing curve, shift point, yada, yada, to, make a educated guess at a pass, at the first lick.
So in terms of the quarter mile, were you going through the lights at what you would consider your near or at your power peak or red line or whatever number?
Yeah, right now it's crossing the traps, and I've got to give a shout out to Dusty because he knocked the converter out of the park. Right now I'm crossing at 8,300, give or take, and at that particular RPM as it's crossing the traps, the converter is only slipping like 1.5%.
Wow, that's impressive. So what RPM or whatever are you targeting to be going through the 8th mile lights after you re-gear it?
Well, that's kind of loaded because obviously the gear is going to allow me to accelerate a little bit faster than I did currently with the current gear. So I'm just guesstimating. The car had trapped 153 with the gearing it has now in the 8th, and of course I'm going to turn the boost up more than what it's been on. So you got that going for you too. So I just guesstimated somewhere between 165, 170 in the 8th, and kind of targeted my peak RPM for that. And I figured that's pretty much all the way turned up for what my motor and stuff could take. So I, kind of back calculated the converter slippage and engine RPM, tire size, gear ratios, yada, yada, to figure all that out.
And so the net is, at the moment, if you're willing to share, roughly what are you going from and to in terms of the rear?
The rear gear that I have in it now is a 350, and it's got a 2-speed 400 in it that still has a stock gearing. So it's a 148 low gear, a 1.0 high gear, naturally. So 350 ring of pinion in the back on a 275/60 tire. And we're swapping over to a 411 gear. 411 is going to be a little bit high strung. I'll probably be crossing a little bit higher in the RPM with that gear. But a 389 was going to be a little bit too tall. So, I'd rather ring it out a little bit more out the back than, have it lug it too much down low. So really a 4.0 gear would have been probably perfect.
Yeah, it's tough to get a pro gear in all those individual little ratios. Yeah. NASCAR guys get every gear ratio in the world, but not in the pro gear type allergy. Well, that'll be fun. Are you making any predictions yet?
I don't know. This stuff is all still too new to me because I'm used to stick shift racing stuff. So, it's been really awesome. Quantifying adjustments and, actually making headway with, getting the car down the track for once and consistently. So, currently that last fastest pass that I've made is a 483. I'm going to try to get the thing down in the 440s eventually, but, that's a tall task. 0.4 of a second is, a lot harder to come by, once you're down in the fours. So I've got quite a bit of power left, and obviously the gear is going to help a lot, but, I don't know how much. I really don't know till I know, I guess.
All right, we got a question on here, a little bit of a lengthy one. Tuning a new setup. Based on similar combos, I'll want to be running around 40-ish pounds to make it run where I'd like to. Have a pretty good handle on timing around 27 pounds. How much less timing per pound should I run? If I had more time, I'd start smaller way up, but I don't have that kind of time. Okay, first off, I'm going to head this one off and I'll let someone else. If you're trying to run 40 pounds and you don't have the time to do it right, find more time.
It's Cody Breacher, man. He knows what's going on. He's actually really smart. Go ahead. I know him.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I feel like if we're going for 35, 40 pounds of boost, we're going to want to find more time and do it the right way versus the guess of working our way down there.
Cody, you want to be about
have the time to replace what you scattered
13
later.
degrees at 40 pounds on your combo, Cody. Maybe you'll end up at 15 when it's done, but I'd start off at 13 degrees if I was at 40 pounds. At 35 pounds, it'd probably be 15 degrees. Just saying.
A little bit of experience there, speaking a little bit.
What?
I have a theory. If we don't have time to do it right the first time, where are we going to find the time to do it right a second time? That's just kind of a saying.
Yeah, you just got to get to know Cody is all.
What now?
You got to get to know Cody is all. That's all. He'll get it figured out.
I'm with it.
He's not stupid or slow. So.
Okay, I'm with that.
Yeah.
So Scott said 13. Put 13 in it. See what happens. I trust him.
Yeah, I'd start there.
Man ain't led me wrong yet.
If you can make that boost, also make sure that it doesn't make more power on 28 or 32 PSI. Look at how much fuel it will happily consume to hit its target AFR. He knows what's up.
Because we were going back at it earlier, Scott, it was just under 2.6 seconds by my stopwatch 3 times, 2.4.
From 2.47, idle or from starting?
No, they did the rolling trans brake deal that the Tub guys are all starting to do now. So you disconnect the trans brake solenoid, grab the trans brake button so it comes up onto the 2-step, and then let go of the button.
And then it was 2.6 seconds?
Yep.
Oh, so they're just doing a rolling anti-lag launch control then?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because as I understand a trans brake, you put it in reverse and low at the same time. So I don't understand how it could roll
They're
if the
hitting the
trans brake
button.
was
Yeah,
engaged.
no, it's just it's a rolling rev limiter with a timing retard usually. It's just a rolling anti-lag or rolling launch control that lets you lock in a speed and roll from that.
Right.
So to Mark's point, it is not a trans brake at all.
No.
It's
Yeah.
sort of a modified two-step
It's a
function.
it's a rev limiter on a button.
Yeah, it's a rolling
Yeah.
two-step.
I will digress all former comments and say this: Dyno records are gay. Go race the car and let's see what happens.
There you go. I'm with that. I think we all agree with that.
Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah,
Always is.
Dyno's a tool. If you're going to argue about what's in your toolbox, then I mean, sorry, Perdido and Mark, but you probably
I'm here.
Hey, I have Harbor Freight
Dyno's
tools
a tool.
too.
Just
Don't-
make sure your operator isn't a tool also.
Amen to that.
I'm far enough away from Mark to say that I have Harbor Freight tools in my toolbox next to my Snap-on. They all work.
I own
Briefly.
some Harbor Freight.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have some tool to throw when you're upset. You can't throw your Snap-on.
Dude, I built a whole tool roll full of those Icon Harbor Freight stuff, man. I like them. Not gonna lie.
I keep the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh stuff in the trailer because when it walks off, I don't want to shoot somebody.
True.
Dude, I was gonna say that's what's in my trailer is Pittsburgh stuff.
Yep.
Yep. If you lose a ratchet, it was $10, not $100.
Try
Yeah,
the
I already
Icon
have one.
Stuff. It's surprisingly cool for what it is.
Yeah, my nice snap-on broke neck ratchet with a swivel extension and snap-on socket for spark plugs walked off last year at the track. So
Also, like
I don't
$800
make that good
worth of stuff.
there no more.
That was
Yeah.
a $250 life lesson right there.
Exactly.
Any pointers for someone switching to Holly from MS3? I read that backwards. I was like, what? No, but
Congratulations.
welcome to the easy life.
Now we got it again.
I think the biggest pointer is just follow the directions for wiring well, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention to power and grounds and make sure they're correct, because any little noise will cause you problems that will create more and more problems as you go, and you'll troubleshoot the wrong thing and you'll waste time. So the best thing you can do is start with good wiring practices. Make sure you do everything as clean as possible. Label everything that you do wire in, so if you do have to go back later, you can actually figure out what something is without having to guess. And take your time. There are plenty of online places to find answers for questions. You've got 3 different places on Facebook. You got forums all over the place that people will help you. It's a huge community of people that can help you with solving any issues you do have with the Holly.
All right, next one, because Jake Hildebrandt likes to start a fight. Solid state battery disconnects. Why or why not?
I think you guys, I like them. We run them in
Trash.
every
I like
race
them.
and drift car.
I like them too. I'm going to
trash.
get that out of the way. Now I'm going to stand back.
Pure
So,
trash.
so currently it's the new updated required on much of the upper level NHRA stuff. So why not switch to something that is what they're mandating as being the safer alternative?
What, they're saying that it's the safer alternative in NHRA?
Yep.
They,
Dude,
because
I'm
you can
sorry.
now tie
I'm,
in
you
your
know what?
fire
And
bottle to
here
it.
we go. Bill's going to cringe.
So,
Dude, let me
use
talk.
They
properly.
want it so you can tie in everything to it.
No, well, first off, problem number one is presuming that what NHRA picks that they actually looked at. Dude, NHRA went with whoever wrote them the biggest check. Okay, NHRA
that's
went.
my,
this
my
is what I
problem.
was told.
Once you start saying
I
it
was
has
told
to be this brand.
NHRA went with Holly EFI for Pro Stock because it's the only system out there that we could police and make sure they weren't doing traction control. And then I showed them how you could do single sensor traction control and hide it in Pro Stock. So I mean, literally, I'm sorry, but these are tech guys. They're California
Here's-
dudes that don't know what racing is. I mean,
Here's
it's
what
not,
I was explained was their big reason was that because that solid state relay has the ability to tie directly to the fire system and the parachute, if you have a launcher that's electronically triggered on both of them, that way if you have to kill the power, you can also still be able to fire off a chute and fire off a fire suppression system.
Why can't you have a mechanical solenoid kill a mechanical contact switch? Dude, I guarantee you, I bet you money within a year that they completely change that rule and get rid of those things when those cars catch on fire or it fucks up a bunch of electronics. I mean, that's why Motion stopped selling their solid state relays. Because like I told everybody, that's why all these guys were coming out with these kits, dude, that they're junk. What happens is your race cars aren't wired perfectly. And let me tell you about some NHRA pro level cars and how they work. As soon as those solid state relays become a PWM source switch because of some ripple in the control or the power or the grounds, any of that stuff, that's junk. I don't take it seriously just because NHRA says it.
The problem there is this goes on any technology. As soon as you mandate it and leave room for people, like it becomes one of those things. People are trying to adopt it and make stuff for it before it was ready. The CarTech switches we run, which will never be allowed in NHRA because they're a ground side disconnect. It's pretty much the norm in most road racing. They work great. There's a few other ones. They've been out there for years. I think what we had this mandate. You get a bunch of people jumping in trying to make them. They didn't get tested well, and they're being used on cars that aren't wired so well.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's what's going to happen. Yep, that's what's going to happen is they're on cars that aren't wired well. You know, it's funny. Pro Stock didn't mandate that you should run your electric fuel pump from your Holly ECU and 2 cars right out of the gate with, I'm going to put my fuel pump on a switch. And the cars bounced into the wall and burnt to the effing ground because it dumped 2.5, 3 gallons of fuel because the fuel pump stayed running.
On our solid state switches, we have all the inertial stuff tied into them.
Yeah, that is good.
Even if the PDM doesn't see it, it hits that kill switch immediately. But yeah, we still leave our fire system and all that stuff on.
By the way, that's where NHRA is trying to go with this is like they already have in the fuel cars is the automated. It does a certain amount of things and gets out of shape. It deploys the chute. It shutdowns the car. And the drivers like Jack Beckman will tell you that there are times when it took away his ability to, drive through something, but they set the thresholds and that's where it is. And your run is over. So whether you liked it or not, that's where they're trying to go.
The big plus I like about them is having the driver being able to kill power to the car without a cable going to the back of the car.
Yeah, implemented right, they're a better solution. But I think the mandate was done in a way where it's going to encourage implementing them the wrong way.
I think the mandate was done, like Scott Clark said, because someone wrote him a check.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's systems out there that are proven to work in the race world, like so the CarTech system and a few others. AIM might have one. I'm not sure. I actually had no.
All I have to say about how it came about is header collector tethers. You mean to tell me that I can't do a couple of band clamps and a piece of cable myself? I have to spend $120 on an NHRA certified header tether.
Hey, what about your seatbelt expiration or your window net expiration? I don't even want to go down that road. I don't even want to go there. Ryan Deeroff, let's talk race car wiring 101. No, let's not go back and listen to the Troy Baum episode before Brian Barnhill goes on a 27-hour long discussion about how to wire a race car.
Just bring it to me with no sheathing on it, all your wires zip tied, and wires touching the header. It's fine.
But yeah, go back and catch the Troy Baum episode. That would probably answer the majority of what you want to do. Bill Armstrong wants to know, when switching from E85 to C16, would you expect to add much timing?
That's actually a good question. I would be interesting to hear.
No, the only reason, I answered him on that already, and I said not really because I know Bill and those guys, they're not going to be on the on-kill max effort engine dyno tune like Fowler did. So I'm always 1 or 2 or 3 degrees away from right on the edge anyhow, so I wouldn't expect there to be too much of a change. You might, you're going to change your targets a lot. Your big mistake is going to be tending to run C16 way too fat. You can be 12.5 to 1 at 25 PSI on that air fuel gasoline.
Yep.
What else we got? What else?
I scare a lot of people when I show them an air fuel table that's in the mid 12s on 20 pounds of boost. They look at me funny, and then you tell them, hey, that's.
This is a good, because I don't tune a lot of C16. Someone was asking me this it was like a friend of a friend. C16 versus methanol, what you're doing on AFRs and lambda in timing between those two.
So
Did you say
methanol wants to
lambda?
be super fat,
Yeah.
and methanol will take a little more timing to it in the lower range. It takes a little less as you get more and more boost.
Okay.
That's designed for the heat, right? And it'll take a little more timing. I shouldn't say it'll take any more. You'll have less problems if you overtime it because it's so resilient. You'll still lose power if you go beyond where that peak is, but you can push it. I've seen some really, really dumb amounts of timing. I know Scott Clark has done one where they pushed like 20 degrees or something past some stupid amount.
Yeah, just to see what it
still
does.
wouldn't knock and wouldn't cause problems, you know?
No.
I've seen guys with easily 10 degrees beyond where it should have been, and it didn't blow anything up with C16. On methanol, if you're 10 degrees past it, you have ashtrays and parts coming out the side of your block and the whole thing's trash.
We were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I was kind of rich. And I was like, man, yeah, that shouldn't have done it. That basically they're like first power pull on the dyno, they melted a piston. And we start talking, I was like, and he's asking about timing. I was like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't start super crazy. Like I would start well below C16, but that's naturally what I do anyways. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I cranked a lot more timing in than we would have run on ethanol or pump gas or anything like that. And I'm like, yep, that sounds like, well, that's what did it. He just went straight to timing and he overtimed it.
On C16, tuning on the gas scale, I'm looking at a 12.0 as being kind of the fat point. Like that's like usually that's really, really fat. That's when you're up in the 30s and 35s, it's very, very safe, but it's very, very fat. It's not helping you. On methanol, the equivalent would be like being down in like the 9s for where it wants to be if you were on a gas scale. It wants to be super fat and rich. Like on the methanol scale, down in the 3s if you're a dry block, 4.0, 4.1 if you're a wet block. When Stoic is up at 6.5, your normal cruise and idle is typically in the mid 5s. I mean, it just wants, like methanol wants to be like a 0.6, 0.55 lambda. C16 barely wants to be at like 0.85.
Right.
Is it worth briefly revisiting the difference between C16 and Q16? Just as a reminder for people not to make
Q16
bad
doesn't have the heat
mistakes.
resilience that C16 does.
Q16 very different apps.
Is MTBE, whatever the thing is, it's partially oxygenated, right? So it's the chemical that's in it's very caustic and very, very damaging. If you run it, you should expect to have to do replacement to stuff because it's very, very toxic to parts. But you can get an extra couple percent of power out of it. When I'm talking like 3-4% at most, it's designed for classes that have strict limits that the only way to get that little bit of extra power is to use Q16 instead of using something else. That's where for most people, it's just toxic and hurts parts. It's too much. It eats injectors. It eats O-rings. It eats all kinds of crap.
Let's look at like DXP Street, the new hot class going right now. Your fixed size carburetor, you have a spec carburetor you can use. You have a spec nitrous plate you can use. That's the only thing you're allowed to run. So I'm fixed air, I'm fixed oxygen, I'm fixed power adder. That's somewhere where I think Q16 starts to have some validity. Other than that, outside I love the way Q16 smells. It really, if you've got air to give, if you've got turbo, if you've got, you're not on that edge of I have nothing left to give, I'm going to be on C16 every time.
And C16 is super tolerant of heat, where Q16 is not. C16, you can melt the IAT sensor and it just doesn't care. Q16, if you melt the IAT sensor, you are going to have problems with your tune-up. It's going to cause some pistons to have some holes in them.
If you run methanol into the turbo intake for charge cooling, how does that affect C16 non-intercooled?
So with Earl's car, we were doing that. On hot days and on certain tracks, he would do that. We'd run methanol in, and it helped to spool a little bit. We didn't see anything really as far as other things that we really saw. Like we didn't really see any major charge cooling. He's a non-intercooled car, but we saw just a little bit difference in the spool time for a really, really hot day because it it helped a little bit with that, but we didn't see anything on just kind of an average cool day, really.
I'm looking. See what YouTube has to offer. Who's over here on YouTube? Scott's been answering all the question on YouTube. I was reading about methanol. Anyone ever have a problem with a hot car, hot day, and the low boiling point in the fuel system?
Not on a pressurized. No. That's why EFI runs 45, 50 PSI differential pressure, so you don't have problem with that.
Okay, so I could see that maybe then in the carbureted application you're saying?
If you're talking carbs,
carburetor fuel, you could definitely boil the fuel in a way that it would cause vapor lock.
In a carbureted setup, for sure.
And you can do that even in an EFI setup if you're running a really small cell and you're running a big pump and you're running a return style system and you're just beating the crap out of the fuel.
You can overheat the fuel, yes, but your only vapor lock will happen on the suction side, per Jeff Stacy, and I think he's right. If you have a good gravity
that's correct.
feed,
yeah. But you'll in effect end up with the same thing because you're sucking air along with fuel, and you won't have the right amount of pressure.
It also depends on if it's a return list system.
What in the hell?
Someone just ran into a wall?
Whoa! What was that?
I thought they turned on the margarita.
I thought Perdito got his hairdo caught in the his mullet caught in one of those fans or something. I wasn't sure what that noise was.
I've had some instances on return list systems.
On my phone real quick, and I forgot to turn the volume down, so it was nothing.
Yeah, on some return list systems where the fuel basically is pushed forward and everything is used in the fuel line to the injector. I've noticed on just chassis dynos, where there's not a lot of airflow and you're not cruising down the road at 60 mile an hour to cool everything off. Especially if you're doing a whole lot of steady state stuff, the fuel definitely gets aerated, to an extent. Obviously the higher the pressure, the higher the boiling point. So, it's kind of pressure related, but there is instances on really hot days, a lot of heat soak, where I think you can still boil the fuel in a non-return style system.
It's interesting to me that the OEs have fuel rail insulators and they run fuel rail insulators on the NASCAR stuff that's fuel injected now.
Well, if you're running a car for hours and hours at a time, it's going to heat up. That's normal. If you have constant heat to it, it has no choice but to heat up to whatever that temperature is in that engine bay eventually. So that's why they run them. They're trying to stave that off as much as possible, because you can't eventually get to that point. It takes longer with the FI.
We have some people a little confused. He says, earlier you guys were talking about cars being wired poorly. How is the wiring on the Terminator system? Installing one now, and it seems to all be plug and play. We are not talking about the harness that came with your EFI system where it plugs into the sensors on the motor. We're talking about how you're getting power to the ECM, how you're grounding your block so that those sensors that you're plugging in can read correctly, as such and so forth. The plug and play wiring that came with your ECM is not where we're at right there.
Depends what ECM plug and play wiring you're talking about, but yeah, for the most part, even the wiring that isn't my favorite is usually done okay. There's a few plug and play kits I've seen sold from some people out there that have some very questionable power and ground, but yeah.
Someone asked how high you go, but I think it's all over that. Mark Dahlquist, where do you live that you lost power? You're running on battery backup. I mean, the guy's he's in the dark.
Who are we talking about?
So Mark lives up in Fargo, North Dakota.
Is Fargo out?
It's outside of Fargo, but basically it's Fargo, North Dakota, and they got a big storm going through right now. So that's part of it. They got like hail and all kinds of stupid crap happening.
Oh, it is June, so it's probably still snowing, right? Sorry, Mark. That's not fair when he's not here to defend
No,
himself.
I'm still here. I had a full battery charge in the laptop, and I'm hotspotted on my phone.
That's
so
awesome, Mark.
Oh,
Hey,
lights just came back on.
Tyler Cohen, modular 2 valve. What are you talking about? What we got going on over here? Early, he's talking about the term. That's the guy with the Terminator system putting on a modular 2 valve.
Oh God, love him.
Hey, I got some 2 valve love, man. We got Dave Geisler's car down here, and because I know he's listening, I'll even say hi to Jason Hager, Mr. 2 Chains out there. They're all chasing that. I think Dave was the first, another Real Tuners graduate. By the way, it's a class next to me.
Yes, sir.
Scott Train. Well, the first, I believe, stock block 2 valve or 2 valve in the 7s or something into that effect is the record he holds right now.
Go Geisler. David
I
Geisler.
think that's worth talking about, that records are set on tracks. The idea that there is such a thing as a dyno record
Thank you.
just drives me insane.
Yes, I feel that.
Just, it just makes no sense, because there's
If you sell
absolutely
parts
no way
and
to
it's a
verify
record with your part,
baseline.
then
I can
it's a valid
change this.
record.
I can change the settings on any dyno you want and make it read any record you want. If you want to make 4,000 horsepower with a bone stock Camaro, we can change the numbers and make it show that for you.
And let me back up real quick, because there's someone out there that thinks we're attacking TKM. We are not. We're attacking dyno records as a whole. I'm not attacking any one shop or person or entity. Remember, this is being said at 1 hour and 57 seconds into this. Now, if someone says you guys were go back, no, listen to this part. It is not directed at any person or entity as a whole. It's where we just put the car on the track. Both cars that are after this hydraulic roller record are very fast, but I don't think bragging the dyno number is what we should be doing at that level. If you want to talk about, hey, I'm the first guy to crack 500 horse with an SRT4 Neon, cool. But when we're talking cars that are making, 2,000 plus horsepower here, let's let the drag strip do the talking. You see what I'm saying? That my personal opinion, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not speaking for anyone else before someone that's from, that's me. But it's so weird in this world. You have to disclaimer everything.
Don't want to offend anybody.
Well, no, Mike, I think it's worth saying that, again, yeah, and you're right. I didn't make that comment because I don't even know who most of these people are. So Lord knows I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. I just think the idea of dyno records is inherently silly because you have absolutely no way of doing the baseline. I mean, that's why things like engine masters existed, because you had to take everybody to the same facility on the same machines at the same time on the same day. And even then, John Kazi proved that you can still, do some very clever manipulations if you're smart and nobody else picked up on it. So
right on.
The bottom line is all the other stuff is just like, who the hell knows? And so therefore it doesn't matter. It might as well be, having a subjective judging and decide that sets a record. Sorry.
Anytime you're testing something, it has to be tested against a standard. And that's the key point, is a standard or measuring stick, which is what a track is. Because guess what? The lights are exactly a quarter mile apart from one another, or eighth mile, whatever you're racing. Dynos, on the other hand, there is no standard, period. The only standard there is for engine dynos, and that does not translate to chassis dynos. So, claiming a record for a chassis dyno number is, funny.
Unless you're selling parts, then it's fine.
Well, and to be fair to the people selling parts, you need to have some sort of thing. So if you're doing your test, and if you're being at least honest to say that we didn't change anything on the dyno, and this change of, my camshaft A to my camshaft B yields this result, you would hope that at least they're trying to keep that part of the playing field level, because it is expensive to do, engines separately and dyno them and then put it in the car and get everything all straightened out and then do the comparisons. That costs time and money and a lot of things a lot of people simply don't have, which I get.
Well, even when Superflow bought out DTS, they came around and told all the people at DTSs to turn them up 4% to match the Superflows because they would make more horsepower. Well, a dyno shouldn't be making horsepower. A dyno should just be reporting what you're doing and just reporting it repeatedly so you can make decisions as to where you want to go from where you're at.
So I have a question, and for one of you guys that's super dyno nerdy, because I am not that guy. We have very what they call dirty power down here. So like if I put a multimeter in my wall outlet, I might move 30 volts. Okay, these guys that have So if you have like an eddy,
that won't matter.
It won't matter. Like that's not going to affect the load cell.
No, it's regulated power supply going into the dynos. That's why they all usually have a big thing on the wall or a big box that everything has to go into first. All you're doing is supplying the internal power supplies that supply a constant voltage to all the parts.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Even with that dip there, and it's, you could be 15, 20 volts off, and they will still be able to supply the same amount of power to their parts as needed. So that's the way they're.
I would like to clarify that a little bit, because technically it does matter depending on the dyno that you have, because not all of those dynos have the proper filtering, transformers, yada yada, regulated power supplies to their integral parts, which is also why they read all over the place.
Another one. Is Scott Clark here? Scott, you listening? He's not here, or he didn't push unmute. I was going to set Scott Clark free on this one. Matt Carlton, what's the deal with? Oh, I wish Tom was online. What's the deal with people bashing the Bosch 210 injector? Matt, no one has ever bashed the Bosch 210, the actual Bosch 210.
Actual, not China.
So I think, and I wish Tom was here to describe, or they've been buying a number of injectors sold in what looks to be legit Bosch packaging with legit Bosch part numbers that are actually legit Bosch injectors. I would say, this is just a guesstimation right now, 2 out of every 5 you buy are probably legit. The rest of them advertised are probably knockoffs. They're being advertised as Bosch. Based on what's going on right now, and there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, I don't think the guys buying them, selling to you, know they're fake. I think they legitimately think they're buying a real product.
Yeah, and the only way to tell is at this point is because some of them are so good at being a fake, you have to actually take them apart to see the guts to know if they're real.
Yeah.
Scott Clark, I was going to set you free on the what's the deal with people.
I had to go refill my drink, and I was listening on the live stream, which is 20 or 30 seconds behind. But yeah, so yeah, the actual Bosch 210s were for compressed natural gas, but they worked pretty decent for liquids. You had some guys bashing them because they non-linearity at low pulse widths. Shut up. That's stupid. For a race
they're
car,
all
for
non-linear
car,
at
run
low
it
pulse
at
widths,
0.89 lambda would be fine. But the problem is all these damn fakes. And I think the batch of good fakes that were all dated with the same date code, the 2012 date code and all that, I think those must have run out, because it looks like some of those suppliers are starting to have fail problems, and some of the ones that seem to be sort of trustworthy are now ended up being like the ones that the sloppy guy assures you are just fine, because you got some free ones. But yeah, so anyway, we'll see what happens.
And like I said, Matt, before you take that wrong, I don't think the distributors are purposely selling you bad. I don't think they know they're getting Chinese knockoff. I really don't think they do. I'm gonna give them
they're
the
paying
benefit.
$4 a piece for them.
People that used to sell good ones all of a sudden now seemingly to supply what he knows are now fakes.
Yes, okay, Brian. That's exactly what's happened to at least 2 very good guy, reputable resellers out there in the industry that I've seen just in the last month. And I don't know if their source is starting to jerk with them around, but I'm seeing a problem. At this point, I tell people, go find Tom at FID. He's the most realistically priced of the legit Bosch supplied 210s that I know about. So, and that's about it. Anyone else you're paying more?
I think there's one other problem there's a big problem I was just going to say there's a big problem that people, need to understand about global supply chain, and that's the OEs have been manufacturing the lion's share of their electronic parts, or the suppliers to the OEs have been manufacturing the lion's share of their electronic parts and a lot of other hard parts in China for a long time. And that means even Bosch is manufacturing in China. And a lot of the other global supply chain people are manufacturing in China because that's where you could get stuff made the cheapest and still meet the quality specification. Now, China has two problems. Now, I speak to this from the experience of having worked with a global hardware technology company that manufactured the bulk of its products in China. And our problem was, even though we had the strictest controls we could put on the QA and the other stuff, it was very difficult to prevent product from walking out the back door from additional production runs that would go overnight and then get marketed as gray market or off-brand or something else. And the gray market was a huge problem. And then nothing prevents some of those same people from then going ahead and knocking it off and calling it something else or presenting it as the exact same product, except the meantime between failure, the MTBF of the components is way less. And then individual things get cheaper. And the quality of the solder is no longer got the percentages that it's supposed to have. And on and on and on. And it's extraordinarily difficult to run that stuff down. And it gets all the way to the point where the stuff you see where, they spell it wrong and the box is the wrong color. But people are ending up buying that. And the more popular the part, the more likely it is to A, get backdoored, and then B, gray marketed, and then C, just flat knocked off by the place that can build it the cheapest. And that's the big picture issue that's going on with global supply chain right now. And it affects everybody.
That's 100% nail on the head. I've worked with Chinese manufacturers forever, and even from inside our company, we would have problems. I got a parts run in, I think it was like a $50,000 worth of parts run back when I worked for Osram, Slovenia. And the snap fit that we spent it was all designed because we assembled everything in the US, but we had it made in China. And political reasons, we got a tax break by saying we assembled it in the US. So there was a very specific snap fit that needed to happen. And they all come in, and all my test pieces built in the US worked fine. And this production run didn't. It was our first production run. Start looking at everything, and I pull out the drawing, and I start seeing tolerances that are like 0.0357 millimeters or something I would never set as a tolerance. And I started going through, and they said, 100% run to spec. And I started noticing that they just changed the spec on the drawing and tried to pass it through QA under their drawing.
Wow.
So you got that side of it, and then you've got, when we rejected the parts, I guarantee they went out to a knockoff piece that got sold as, it's the same thing. And sure, it may be the same thing made on the same line, but exactly as Bill just pointed out, it's the stuff that got turned down or wouldn't have been sold, or they made using some cheaper process specifically to knock off the product. And when you send stuff over there, I don't know if you guys dealt with this, Bill, too. You just assume that at some point your stuff's getting knocked off.
Well, we not only had to assume it, but we actually lived it. We had Huawei copying our stuff right down to the color of the paint on the boxes. And gosh, we won at the World Trade Organization and some other stuff. And like, who cares? They just kept right on going. This is part of the reason for all this global political stuff going on. And here we are at the pointy end of the stick with trying to make sure our cars don't blow up. And at the same time, everybody's trying to do the best they can with the money they got. So it's very appealing to buy the cheaper part from the cheaper place. But everybody has to be aware that it might not be the real thing, and it might burn your engine up.
Yeah, so knowing where you're going to save your bucks and where you're not, it's a lot more expensive. Same thing we said before about doing it right the first time. It's a lot more expensive to do it right the second time.
And this isn't, just want to make this clear. We're not preaching this stuff just because Tom is our buddy, or, we're buddies with some other, quality injector manufacturer. We're saying this because we do this for a living, and we see this shit day in and day out. And
every day.
Chinese injectors are fucked up.
Yeah,
they're just completely fucked.
Every day. I saw this on Matt Happel's YouTube channel. I saw a guy on YouTube told me to hotwire my coils. Dude, people bring us the odd shit while these YouTube superstars are sitting in their cubicles, browsing YouTube all day, but can't post because they'll get in trouble. I mean,
you know what saves them, Scott Clark? I'll tell you right now. That Holly closed loop we talk so much about.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Because
because
you to turn it on, it'll be right.
It didn't
Yep.
save the Velcro-proof guy. You saw. I saw pictures of both of his customers stuck in the staging lanes and broke down after the burnout with electrical problems. But I make a bunch of YouTube videos. Look at my tattoo.
I have to tell people that the YouTube thing is horrifying. I know some people are aware that not a lot because we're not a big place, but we've been working on trying to create a carb legal coyote swap 2018 Mustang GT into a 99. And we're chasing down some of the last little bugs to get the carb certification, one of which includes how we get the fuel tank pressure sensor to read from the 99 tank correctly for the 2018 ECU. And it's astounding the stuff that people that present themselves on experts will say, no, the fuel tank pressure sensor is in the fuel tank. No, it's not. It's on the evap transfer line that comes out of the canister that goes to the front of the car. And yet people are showing pictures and posting images of things, and it's like they're just wrong. And there is an extraordinary amount of that stuff out there now. And, just trying to sort through this, just piles of bad information is very hard, especially when, like everybody, you're trying to figure out something new. And, three, experts all weigh in, if you're foolish enough to post this question in a general place, you're going to get a whole bunch of very expert sounding opinions that are just full of shit. One of my filters for that is when they can't spell words like injector correctly, and other stuff like that. It's just astounding.
That's great. So,
yeah, well,
I mean, I use
spell check for the win, but never mind.
So it goes back to, I ever tell you guys my theory on, I used to call it forum logic. And I watched this on Yellow Bullet years ago. Scott might even remember the post.
Oh, yeah.
There was a guy that asked a very simple nitrous question. I don't remember what it was back in the day. And if you ever watched Monty Smith post, and for those of you that don't know nitrous, Monty Smith was, if he wasn't the best, he was one of the absolute
my
best.
favorite nitrous tuner ever is Monty Smith. Yep.
Yes. But Monty was not a man of words. He'd come in and say, I would do X, Y, Z. But then below him was this guy who's probably never used nitrous before in his life, but he took a college course on how to talk, and he put this long post out about how it should be done differently. And because he sounded smarter, that post got regurgitated around the page, and in 3 weeks, that becomes gospel. That becomes what I would call forum logic. That became the right way to do it. And that is the problem with a lot of the internet and the YouTube is because, and I'm not, once again, not aiming at anyone specifically, but it's because they sound good or they sound logical or they have a lot of content to give, we assume they're good. And it's really weird watching myself talk because I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. I can see it on my screen. It's throwing me off. But, I guess be careful who you listen to. Look at what they actually do for a living and what they're actually doing before you take their word as that gospel.
Right. If they were such an expert on nitrous tuning, they do it for a living, a full-time living. Not, hey guys, I started my Facebook business page.
It's all about credibility.
Not necessarily for a living, because some people get sick of it and change what they do.
You're
they
not
may
wrong.
do it for a long time,
Do
or
it
they
for a
may have
living.
something else they love to do that they just do it on the side, because if they do it for a living, it ruins them.
Nah, do it for
Dave
a living.
Geisler just
The
checked in.
results.
I was bragging on you earlier, Dave, just so you know.
Do it for a living, my vote.
Right? Look at the results.
And I think if anything, regardless, you could talk to the smartest guy that usually is the smartest guy and right. But if you're just going to blindly do what someone told you on the internet or on a YouTube or whatever without thinking about what's happening and checking with your data if it's right, then you're going to have a problem. You're asking for a disaster. If you're copy pasting any part of your tune or your work or whatever, your setup, and you're at some point going to wonder why it doesn't work for you or why you scattered your engine.
Wait, you mean
And the
I
only
can't
reason
copy and
that
paste my
I
table?
say, the only reason that I say look at the results is because there are people who do that for a living that really don't know what they're doing and don't have any good results.
Sure. Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could go buy a dyno and pay their money to get their sticker from a certain ECU manufacturer.
Yep.
What else we got going on? Anything? Now we got the what's it called? Geisler and Hager, the two valve guys, going to battle it out over here in the comments. What we got?
Have y'all talked about the race that's happening this weekend?
Yeah, for like
the Bam Bam versus the Mud Truck we talked earlier.
Yeah, I figured I missed that. I got on a little late.
I think Barnhill broke it down the best. You said it was 0.166 seconds.
0.166 seconds between when he'll break the beams versus when his bumper's passed.
So we got 0.166 seconds of head start technically. James, what's your reaction time on a 400 Pro Tree?
I haven't really done it. Well, stick shift. I had to watch it because I've red lit a few times. So, you know,
I was giving it a 100 tree. Call it 100. So half a second plus that 0.166. So Derek's technically leaving a little over 6.5 tenths behind the bike.
Well, I'll say Derek is awesome on the tree because look at all the damn races he's won.
He is, but it's
I
not
mean,
a
his car's
tree.
fast. Don't get me wrong.
It's a bumper going by. That's ideally going to be 60 miles an hour, which is on the guy that's driving that car, which is going to be.
How the fuck is he going to see it? That's what I want to know, because obviously he's going to have Han's device and all that shit on. I can't turn my neck that far to see that shit.
Right?
That's what we're talking about.
If we just watch the lights flicker, all he's going to do is see him break the starting line beams, and that's his bumper right there. By the time the signal gets from his eyes to his brain, it's happened faster than his brain can react, because it's 150 milliseconds from your eyes to your brain. So no matter what, he's got that benefit right there. So if we're talking 0.166, then another 16 milliseconds later from when his eyes see the bulbs flicker, that's the quickest he could possibly react.
Well, I mean, hell, at that point, if you really want to break it down, he can take what his RT is. We know the time. So start subtracting times that are going to add on top of that. How long does it take for each amber? He'll know which amber to go on or whichever. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit into it, but you can definitely put the math in there. If you really wanted to get crazy, if you know what the RT is, you could put a timer function on that on the EFI.
Well, the other thing too, there's obviously the anticipation factor. I mean, he's going to see him coming up in his side view mirror and probably going to anticipate it some to an extent.
He'll hear him.
Yeah.
Well,
actually,
an interesting question as to whether he'll hear him or not.
The Viper's a street car.
When does he go on the brake?
If it's got mufflers on it and he's on the brake, he won't hear him.
I think everyone's going to be watching. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, they better live stream that shit. They could probably pay for
somebody's got
speed
a
video
drone
and actually sell it.
Right? That's all I want to see.
Does anyone know the answer to that?
What's that?
Is it going to be live streamed? And does anybody know where or on what? Is it going to be on speed video and you have to have a subscription?
I'm sure there'll be enough people around when this race happens.
Till the cell tower crashes from everybody trying to do a live feed.
That allows me to casually mention that one of the announcements that went out for Rocky Mountain Race Week is because of the relatively small amount of internet that's going to be available at the track to do the live feed. They're asking everyone to stay the hell off of trying to run their own stuff live and watch the live feed at the track. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
It's so impossible at Rocky Mountain Race Week. I've tried to do it one year. Chad's tried to do it multiple years. It literally just doesn't matter. I mean, asking people to stay off, there's just not bandwidth at least 3 of those tracks. I mean, there's not even hardly one bar of 4G or the 3 bars of analog. It was that bad.
Just call up Elon Musk and have him port his Stargates over the freaking tracks.
I guess the real question is, will the track prep be correct for Derek's car?
No.
To launch hard and do what
street car takeovers. The answer is no.
That's the big equalizer right there. Is it enough prep and a good enough tune-up guess at the track to be able to make it happen?
Isn't that the event where a bunch of 3/4 ton pickup trucks are rolling up, dropping mud off the fenders on the start? I mean, It's not like a sanctioned drag racing.
I mean,
I don't think he lets that happen.
Well, the thing is too, I mean, Derek races, that series. So, I mean, I'm sure he knows the tune up that he's going to have to put in the car to get the thing to hook and whatnot anyway. Very seldom do you see him actually knock the tire off in that car either. So,
he's good at picking power management for sure.
Yeah, very excellent at it.
Can you bring the glasses over here?
I just think he's there's a lot up. He's against a lot there that's people aren't getting. He's probably going to blow the tires off or something. We'll see what happens.
Well, that Viper's not slow by no means either.
Oh,
that car's. It's going to be a tough race either way. He'll have to hook it and have it on a kill tune-up to beat him, I think.
Right.
I'd have to go back. There's a race down here in Georgia, Speed Addicts, and Vengeance had some twin turbo Viper out there. And they were all roll racing. I could have swore the son of a gun went 215, 220 miles. I know it was over 200, but this son of a bitch was rolling. Like it was
the orange one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been 200.
Yeah, as I say, so I don't know what this other guy's Viper has. I don't know anything about the car, but it's not out of the question. The Viper is going to be going 200 plus 2 here, guys. Like this is not a Well,
being a roll racer, because I've done roll racing with my stick shift car at these SCT events too, and you actually do get an ET, from on that time slip. They have the timers on, and I mean my car hasn't been as fast with the stick shift for sure as Derek's has, and I was still running like bottom sevens at 180 something mile an hour. And that Viper is faster than that. So
your ET will definitely be faster from a roll. Your mile per hour will still be fairly similar. If we know what the mile an hour will end up at, all right, if we know what the mile an hour will end up at, we'll know if it'll be a good race or if it'll be way out of proportion.
Well, you're correct. I'm more or less looking at the ET though, because I mean we were only starting from a 40 roll, and I still went bottom sevens. And, the Viper's faster than me, just using some ricer logic, as you would say, he's starting from a 60 roll. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
It's definitely the good news is that 60 miles an hour is really less than the 60 foot.
I think, yes, but I think Derek's going to be mile an hour to mile an hour by the 60 foot. The Viper will be out front at that point, but I think mile an hour to mile an hour will be about the same. Yes. He's going to make the mile an hour quick. The question is, can he out horsepower to get around him at that point?
Yeah, the biggest thing there is also the Viper's going to be taking off too, so he's not still going to be doing 60 at the 60
exactly.
foot. So there's a slope there that's going to intercept if he has enough power to overcome it. So
Derek, I see you out there watching. We're all going to be watching. It's going to be fun to watch. I'll tell you that much.
For you, Derek. Don't get me wrong, man, but don't blow the tires off. Don't jump this guy and whatever. It's going to be a pain in the. It's going to be really.
I'm gonna say it right here because you said it earlier, and with him, listen. I think this race is going to have to go off 3 times. It's going to be Derek left before my back bumper, or you were going 68 miles an hour. I think that's going to be the fight of this race more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Just because even the roll racing events that we've done have been a clusterfuck.
They restart the race 4 times. We sat in Georgia at the one race, and they must have ran every race 4 times before they got it right.
Man, I thought drifting was the only thing with 1 more times.
Wait until they add subjective judging to roll racing. Then it'll really be a sport.
Are they going to argue about how, maybe one car's faster, but the other one had more style, so it doesn't matter anyway? Because I heard that one today. Yeah. 2 guys came by the shop. Yeah, 2 guys came by the shop. They're like,
who's holding the radar gun that's verifying that the 60 miles an hour really is 60 miles an hour on the Viper?
He's probably got rolling anti-lag.
Yeah, dude. How do you find out if that guy was
fine,
actually going 60 or not?
What's the guarantee?
Yeah, I mean, I can go in and fuck with my gear ratio and say, it's set at 60. See, 60. ECU says 60.
Right.
if you were actually going to watch that, you'd have to use a radar gun. It's the only choice.
I'll be honest. I was too honest to cheat that. I had mine set at 40 mile an hour, which is what the rule said it to be.
So isn't there 7 inches? Isn't there 7 inches between the two stage beams? And couldn't you show it? Couldn't you show it time?
Yep, and a safety beam afterwards.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm pulling for Bam Bam, dude. I just love Derek Kelly's rig, but yeah.
But I mean, you could calculate the speed through how it broke the stage beams.
I mean, at that point, you can just throw a third-party GPS data logger in the car and data log on it. Install a 2DL, a phone with an external GPS,
a draggy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could even put a freaking GoPro GPS on it.
Derek said SCT staff will have radar.
There it is.
Yeah. I mean, is it really a drag race if there's not an argument on the internet about it?
Yeah,
afterwards?
but like Jerry said, you need a 5-volt radar gun input on a data logger somewhere, because the radar gun takes a full second to report back. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully that helps, but I wouldn't be trusting that too much. And I think that if Derek doesn't definitely leave after that bumper's well past him, if he does any anticipating, I mean, Derek is murder on a tree, obviously. Are they going to bitch about that, and we're going to have to watch 100 cell phone videos and stupid shit?
Yeah, if I sit there, it works.
I mean, I think if Derek has a good run on him, everybody's going to bitch about it, is what's going to happen. And if Derek doesn't get a good run on him, it's just going to suck for Derek, and they're going to be like, oh, you lost. So Derek, don't blow your tires off, man. Set it up for a soft leave. You can run that guy down in a quarter. Ain't worried about that at all.
I got with Mike's opinion earlier that I think it's actually win-win mostly for Derek, as long as it's close.
Agree.
If it's just it gets creamed and he made a good lick, and the clocks are going to be on, right? I mean, the time and the lights at the end of the track, you'll be able to actually see what everybody did, or are they going to have this at clocks off silliness?
So I'm going to message Derek right now and invite him to get on here. You guys keep talking for a minute. I'm going to see if I can get him to get on here.
Usually at those SCT events, it's clocks on, and it starts when you break the beam rolling through.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. They can request no time there also is a no time actual class too. But
hang on, because roll racing's not gay enough. We have no time roll racing now. Right. We have no time roll racing now. We really are there at that point. That's where we've gone now.
Clocks
I invited
on,
Derek to get on the
call. That makes my head hurt.
I'll never be able to roll, or I'll never be able to no time race because I like showing my slips too much.
Well, that's what draggies are for. So you can have no time on your windshield and then show everybody your draggy time.
Hey, I'll tell you what, there's some cars coming to our Car Wars event here in a couple weeks here at a local track. It's a small tire race. And a bunch of guys are being all secretive about their test passes, but they're posting up videos of the track and like draggies and whatnot, spitting out the numbers and blurring the numbers and stuff out. And you can figure out times within about 1/10 of a second, with some video editing software overlaying like a stopwatch on the thing and frame by frame in the thing to, validate, start and stop points. You can figure it out pretty close if you're sophisticated enough with some video editing software. But
you can get within 1/10 by just using your phone as a stopwatch.
Right.
Yeah, I can usually get within 1/10 just using my own thumb on a stopwatch because I can react pretty consistently.
5-volt radar gun, 3-wire radar. I'm just reading through all the YouTube stuff. I've been ignoring YouTube for a little bit. I apologize, YouTube guys. And I'm going over and reading.
Mopar Matty was on here. Isn't that what's his dork? Did you have to time him out? Did you have to put somebody in timeout?
Yeah, I timed him out. He was bashing a little bit, so you can give that little timeout. You don't delete him; you just time him out for a little bit.
Oh damn it! I wanted to see. Okay, I'm gonna view the deleted message when he was talking shit.
People are a little upset about
hilarious.
my shut up with the dyno record. Let's make track records comments. See, John Dock has logged in. Yes. It was not like I said. Please go back and listen to 1 hour in the video. I wasn't calling anyone out specifically. I was just personally over dyno records.
Well, they can call me out on it too, because I'm right there with you, Mike.
I just wish I could figure out why my camera isn't working right tonight, because I'd show you guys this candied bacon I made.
Well, I want candied bacon. Guys, Scott Clark's trying to work on getting a little someone else on here real quick. That's what we're kind of dragging.
Trying to get Derek on here, but now he's being shy. I don't know. Come on, Derek, dial the number. I'll make it easier.
Don't be shy.
Oh, he's done been making Facebook Live videos and everything.
That's what I'm saying. Come on. Yo, they don't have to see you. They have to see my ugly mug. I'm over here on a camera. They're just going to talk on your cell phone.
He's messaging me back. He's coming on. He's dialing in. Keep talking for a minute. Right. Derek's working on it. Cool. We're going to go till midnight on this one. Yep. Maybe we need to get Philip on here too.
We got a winner. We got a winner. Hey, Scott, mute his phone number so people can't call him.
Oh, there he is. Sort of can hear you. Hold on, let me unmute him a little bit.
You there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
There we go. What's up, Derek?
Scott, change his name so it shows his name, not his number.
Shut up, dude. I know. You say it 17 more times, it might make it go quicker. Trying to find it.
What a freaking mess we got.
Yes.
Derek, why are you picking on Vipers, bro?
Dude, I started doing some math, and I don't know, man.
You're not sounding confident.
Like feet per second.
Come on. He knows. He's the Derek. I mean, you can play dumb all day. We know you know what you're doing, but you're gonna run that guy down. I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I just see a problem getting off a clean race. Like those guys not calling it on you guys. I don't know if you guys figured out how that's gonna work. What's gonna consider a valid launch?
We're just gonna have a straight across video of the start. You know, and it's kind of like a tire crack rule. You know, if my car moves before his rear bumper is even with my window, then I'm out. You know, it's a DQ. So I'm gonna have to anticipate a little bit. You know, there is some reaction time there factor, and he is going by at 88 feet per second. So even half a second delay is 2.5 car lengths.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. Good call. Yeah. I mean, you're just going to have to give it to him on that front for anybody not to bitch at you. But
so real quick, Derek, if let's say, and let's just say it happens. I'm not going to, let's say you got 10 cars on him on the big end. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. Let's say, you really think he's going to call you on a tire crack just before he left? I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, is there going to be some pliability there?
I mean, I'm not saying he would, but I've seen that before. You know, it's just like it's just like street racing. You know, if some guy puts 10 bus links on a guy, but he cracked the tire before the light come on, it don't matter.
Good point, man. I hadn't thought about it that way. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves us some room to argue, though, for those of us on Derek's side on this.
At the same point, if he goes 62 or 63 mile an hour, it can go the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how do you know? We're gonna have to sit there. I mean, you ought to paint some stripes.
Yeah, it's going to be an after the fact deal. I mean, we're not going to know. We're going to have to run the race out and then come back and make sure it was a clean start. And if it's clean, then of course, finish line decides the winner.
So, Derek, what about track prep? Are you going to get a decent prep in your lane, or are you going to have to put up with the 4-wheel drive trucks?
Yeah, we will be fighting Texas heat, of course, both of us. But we've all, me, Philip and Chase and Justin and the track guys, we've all agreed that, nobody wants to see a wreck, especially trying to, run 200 plus down their track. So safety is the big thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to run, it's going to be, towards the end of the evening. There's going to be some testing, actual drag race testing going on. So it'll be a quick touch up on the lanes after some testing has already been through. And then they'll have to take a few minutes and dry up his water box because he will be rolling through that. So we want to make sure his water box is completely dry. So touching up the track and drying up his water box, and it should be game on. So,
man, kudos for you for wanting it to be fair both sides, man. That's good shit. That's why you're a winner. Yep. Badass.
So Derek, there's no on for your opponent. He doesn't do anything to heat the tires. It's just
No, he's rolling.
roll through lanes.
Yeah, he's just
okay.
rolling,
Interesting.
So in his lane, he's just running his race, normal roll procedure, no burnouts or anything. They don't usually do any of that. And I'll be running my race, normal procedure, burnout, come up to the stage and beams and stage. I'm gonna just act like I'm in a normal drag race and stage the car like normal. The only difference is I will be, launching the car based on his car's location and not the beams. So,
gotcha. Is there any way to practice on that with a practice tree or something? I mean, do you even practice with a tree, or what? How the hell are you gonna do that?
No, just gotta do the math and see. With 60 mile an hour coming by, you just gotta do the math and know when to let go of that button.
Gotcha.
So the biggest thing I'm worried about.
Technically, you could sit somewhere in your car in a parking, on the side of the road and have somebody drive by at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You see what it looks like. At a minimum, you can understand how fast it is.
May do that tomorrow. I'll just pull off on the side of the interstate, and right when I see like a semi's like front bumper, I can like.
I can't wait to hear the police report on that.
Please video that. Yes, please video that.
But no, and probably the only thing I'm really stressing is I don't want to be two-stepping forever, but I do want to be up on boost, just to ensure that we get a clean run. So, I'm more concerned on, how long is it going to take him from the time the car starts moving to reach 60 miles an hour and to get beside me? Is that 10 seconds? Is that 4 seconds? Is that 15 seconds?
So if you scroll back in the video to about an hour and a half ago, that was the concern I brought up, was like, man, how's Derek going to know to time it to get it on boost where he isn't getting burned down by this guy, or
the initial plan is to, right when his car starts moving, I'm going to have a person signal to me when he starts moving. Because I really don't think there's any way possible that he can reach, 60 miles an hour, maintain 60 miles an hour, and then come by me in any less than 4 seconds. And, I can be up on boost in 4 seconds.
Got it.
So,
got it. So he
and
has
even
to
if it takes
out.
8 seconds.
You can probably watch some of the roll races throughout the day too and get an idea of how long it takes most cars to get from their starting point to the line. And you can kind of probably find an average that'll give you an idea.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of trans fluid capacity. I'm used to hot lapping the car. I mean, even if it takes him 10 seconds to get up there next to me to let go of the button, I'm not concerned about it. I just
gotcha.
As long as it's in that 4 to 10 second window, and I think that's very doable.
I want to say that this is one of the most epic call outs that I've ever seen.
Truth.
But this started like a year ago. I don't know who called out who, but didn't it start with wanting to do a race on the street or then wanting to do a dig? How did this all happen?
No, this started like a week ago, 3 or 4 days ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
I think there was some talk about TX2K, and he knew I was going to be down there in the area, and TX2K is a big roll event and big street roll event, so there was talk about him wanting to race me, out on the street from a 60 roll or for 40 roll or whatever it was, and I believe it was a 60 roll, because people started tagging me, like for me, kind of throwing me on him to race him, and so I just chimed in, I said I just kind of jumped in the middle of the conversation. I said, whose shit am I pushing in from a 60 roll? So since then, he's just like been after me to get that race done. But like I explained in my video earlier today, it's just so hard to hook up, and be at the same place, same time. And, usually I'm racing at the strip all night. Don't have time to go run up and down the interstates of Mexico. So we just hadn't done it.
Dude, I don't know if the rest of you guys know, but Derek puts on basically a pro stock level program as far as how frequently he's out. Not even to mention the percentage of races he wins, but the dude's out there every damn weekend. I mean, very impressive how you even find the time to do this.
Last year we raced 37 weekends. I missed one weekend.
Sorry, 3 times what a pro stock team does. My bad.
I missed because of a rain out. You know, there was just shitty forecast every single place. I usually have 2 or 3 races on the radar for the weekend, you know, and then go wherever the best radar, you know, forecast is. So yeah, we put a lot of laps on the car, usually 400 or 500 passes a year. So
it would have been 50 weeks, but we rained a bunch of them.
Well, there's winter in there, you know, so.
I feel so bad for Mike having to refresh your shit. I'm just gonna.
Well, everything was in good shape. So, I mean, all we had to do was we just freshened it up like a normal refresh. But, you know, heads never come off the car. Actually, I don't think the valve covers come off the car all year. So, not bad.
Bewley was sitting in my
For
class
those of us
this
in the
weekend.
audience,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for those of us in the audience that aren't completely familiar with your car, can you just kind of run down the high levels of what it is and what's in it and those kind of things? Major components. We don't need to know exact lobes that are in the cam unless you want.
No, 5.3.
You're fine.
All you need to know is it's a Bam Bam cam.
It's the Bam Cam.
It is. Yeah, it's a just hydraulic roller, cathedral headed, Michael Lau Racing, 388 cubic inch dart block, single force induction turbo. Car weighs about 3,100 pounds usually when I'm going down the track, so nothing crazy.
It actually seems pretty crazy, and the ETs you're typically running on a good track at good DA.
Bill, that's what happens when you don't run Ford stuff.
Ouch.
Mike, we've already conceded that I'm slow, and I'm also NA. So I will run Bam Bam anywhere, anytime, if he takes all the turbo stuff off.
Right.
I got videos of Bill being slow-ish.
Yeah. But he may be slow, but he's expensive.
I'm teasing. That's
Of course, that's what we're here for, is to have fun and entertain our audience. No, you've done amazing things with the car, Derek, and it's just like I say, sometimes we presume too much that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. So it's good to lay that out, because it's all the more impressive when you hear you actually say it.
Yeah. And they work their ass off. I mean, that's what they do. Derek, you got anybody in your crew or your people that help you that you want to kind of shout out to, or is it it can't just possibly be you? I mean, or is it?
No. And, of course, like guys like John Bewley and Mike Lau has been in my corner, from day one. But, my weekend warrior is my buddy George. He goes all over the place with me. And we've known each other since, we were little kids. We actually rode the school bus together. So that's what we do. I mean, he's there every weekend. It's not
nice.
It's not if, it's where. So
the unsung heroes behind the scene. Yeah.
Yep.
Derek, I want to give you a little bit just so you can see what the viewers are saying behind, or the listeners are saying behind. I mean, we got "This is badass" on Derek's account. I want to say good luck to him. I'm rooting for Bam Bam. No matter what, it takes a Viper from a 60 head start to try and even compete with his car.
Yep.
The people are definitely siding with the underdog here, man.
People are siding with Derek Kelly. Yes, they are. I'd see there's tons of posts on this right now. I'm getting love messages. I was like, no, I didn't plan this. Derek is cool. He just jumped right on because he joined in with listening. Yeah, no, this was not planned.
And me and Philip had a conversation today, testing, no testing. My big thing was, I just wanted it fair. I want everything as fair as possible, straight up as possible, so it's not like one of us is going to be out there like at that track.
Bewley says Philip's a good guy too, and that you won't run into no ethical issues with him. That's what it sounds like anyway.
No, he is. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So, main concern was just getting a good, clean race and putting on a show. So
good. That's good for the streetcar takeover guys. That's good for everybody. I'm looking forward to it, man. Good luck.
Yeah, and the cool thing is just the cars are so close of caliber on horsepower. I believe both around I would say 1,800, 2,000 horse, and different trims, different things. And
it just depends on who's
so
driving.
it's gonna be an interesting race.
Yeah.
You've got to show up. You have got to show up in Chuck Taylors and skinny jeans.
Oh shit!
It would make it epic if you showed up in that outfit, though.
I think it'd be maybe Philip will show up in those. We'll get his butt in those.
He might.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Derek, we won't keep you, man. Thanks for joining us, dude. We appreciate it. We'll let you go.
Oh, you're good.
We're gonna wrap it
You're
up
good.
here in a
Thanks
minute
for having
anyway
me.
for ourselves. But
all right, y'all have a good night.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you
talk to
very
soon.
much.
Good luck, man. We'll be watching and rooting for you for sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Well, that was cool. Big thanks to Derek for jumping on there, man. It takes balls to get on here live with us, man. We appreciate it. Very cool.
And we're not kidding, man. The crowd, at least our listener base, is definitely behind Derek.
Yep, definitely. Seeing that here, too. I mean, we got a lot of drag racers on here. I don't know. Brian brings a lot of roll race fans, too. It's tough to say, but I think ever since I saw Derek do the call out, I was like, man, that's kind of cool. And I do think it is a win-win for him either way. And it's a cool thing for the Streetcar Takeover guys, too. I'd like to see them come up with some... It's, at first I'm like, oh, that seems lame. And then I thought about it. I'm like, no, actually, you wouldn't see a race like this at NHRA or at a Ducks event or anything else. This actually might be pretty cool to run two cars side by side that are totally different. Loans and Freiberger did a couple of TV shows. I don't think it went anywhere after 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, but where they would race different things against each other. And I thought that was people liked it. People like the concept, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think it's neat. I think it's a good call for everybody. See what happens.
Yeah, I wish I could be there.
Yeah, me too, man. It's down in Texas, and I'm going to be busy this weekend, unfortunately.
Where can one watch? Everyone's saying watch on Motor Mania, Mr. Henderson. Everyone's been giving Motor Mania links, I guess, for Streetcar Takeover. Just going off what listeners have said, I'm not swearing to that.
Is Motor Mania a subscription or is it?
No, that is not a paid subscription service. Mark Walters, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, runs Motor Mania. Has his little rig he pulls up next to the track. Does a really good job too.
Man, I'll tell you, that's a guest that would be good to get on as Chase or Justin that run the Streetcar Takeover series.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We had him on, I thought, a year and some odd ago, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it was a year or so. It might have been a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, we could do it again.
Well, they're just now opening up all the races and stuff due to all this crap going on, but
yeah, so everybody within the sound of our voices, let us know. Are there particular people, whether it's event promoters or tuners or stars like Derek Kelly that you'd like to have on the show, so you can post your questions and we'll get them on here for you. So let us know what's interesting to you. Who do you want to hear from? Let us know.
Hilarious.
What else we got, guys? Anything? Who else we gonna make mad tonight?
I don't know. We got that Matt dude, that guy from Canada, is on here hassling us. That's hilarious.
I'm gonna time him out again. Watch this. I love this power. This is the funnest thing ever.
He bought
that's the say it
$80,000 motor and went like 0.2 faster. He's Neil Richards' favorite guy. We got to get Neil back on here and make fun of him. Someone put an Alberta coal roller sticker on that car at one point and got a picture of it, and he's all mad. But anyway, that's our good buddy. So what else you guys want to talk about? I got some stuff. We'll talk about it next week. There was some crappy news behind the scenes. We lost one of our RealTuners family members, passed on, but he's been on the podcast a couple times just quietly, but my favorite wiring guy, but we just found this out like yesterday, so we'll talk about it next week. But anyway, I wasn't actually going to have a show tonight, but the guys talked me into doing it, so I think it was a good idea. But I'm sitting here sharpening my fillet knife for getting the tackle ready for a trout fishing day on a trout fishing river here where I'm at. On Friday, I'm taking the day off. It's going to be awesome. So that's what I got going on. Speaking of irrelevant things.
We be getting the car and the trailer ready to go out to Rocky Mountain Race Week. So
right.
I'm in
traveling circuit.
Anyone want to go 5 with me? That Scott will be remote tuning from the boat on an emergency.
I'm not bringing a laptop. I'm not going to.
Really?
I have my phone. I'll probably be consulting. I'll be taking phone calls, but I'm not going to do any laptop stuff. We'll see how that's going to turn out. But I'm excited, man. I haven't been
for
trout
sure.
fishing since I was a little kid. So, but we're going to be fishing one of the more popular rainbow and brown trout fishing venues in the country here this weekend. It's going to be pretty awesome.
I have $25 that the rod goes in the water because Scott's talking on the phone.
Probably going to happen.
When the trout strikes.
Yeah.
If anybody who has been watching is curious, the videos that have been playing whenever I talk are all from Bill Fowler's Mustang when we went to a trek 2 weekends ago, and did a little suspension work to get the thing to go down, and that's what you've been seeing play in the background when I talk. So just in case anybody's curious what these videos were.
And this is my chance to tout what a great job Scott Evans, Helix Tuning, did working with us in 4 passes. Basically, we picked up 0.3 of a second, maybe a little more.
But you picked up with some consistency too, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, the consistency was nuts. We ran a 71, a 71, and a 70. Now, all of you on the audience here think that is the slowest piece of junk in the history of the world. And just remember, it's a 302 NA with a Holley carburetor and an Edelbrock manifold. So get over it.
It runs like one, but in reality,
yeah.
I'm teasing. It runs good.
Yeah,
I mean,
but anyway,
horsepower naturally aspirated combo.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome work, and it was really nice to finally feel like we're getting the car somewhere like close to where it ought to be, and that was accomplished in a very short period of time. There's nothing like having a professional looking over your shoulder to help you get a lot of stuff right that, you know, like everybody talks about. You get to the track, you have no time, you get to make one run, now you're in eliminations, and you never get to test properly or evaluate properly. And as Scott was sharing online, we had 5 cameras on. Fortunately, none of them showing the driver because, well, that would have been horrible.
The driver's boring.
Yeah, but we learned a great deal, and we're able to get. We set a baseline. We made a hit. It wasn't completely successful, but because we were prepared to evaluate it, our next 3 hits in a row were boom, boom, boom.
I showed up at the shop and basically looked at his car and went through the normal paces. We were going through everything anyways because he's getting ready for Rocky Mountain Race Week. And so he's going through all the bolts, going through all the stuff, and I wanted to double check shocks and make sure everything felt like it should on the car, you know, and get a good guessing point because I didn't know how his shocks are valved, and I had to you feel it. You have to lift up and push down the car and kind of feel how the shocks react a little bit, just to some human interaction as a starting point, just to get an idea of what it's going to do. And then we went to the track, and my first guess wasn't too bad. It left and then went out a little bit and knocked the tire off. So I knew I had to make a little bit of change to the shocks. I knew that the initial hit was correct, and I knew I needed to throw a little more power to it. So I raised up the rev limiter and changed the shocks a little bit. And second hit went right down the track, no problem. Had just solid as can be, you know. Came back around, brought the rev limiter up more, trying to get a little more power on the leave. Made one small adjustment to the shocks and hit it again, and it went right down the track and left even harder. You know, pulled back around one more time. We get to sit in the staging lanes for about an hour because when we pulled back around, we were like 3 cars from where they decided to do the cutoff, which kind of sucked. But we, you know, sat there for a little bit and then made another lick and went right down the track. I tried to convince Bill to do a 5th one. I wanted to do like an end of the day Hail Mary pass where you just shoot for the moon, make it as hard as you can get, and just to see if it'll hold it. And I thought it would have, but we were just beat and tired. It was a pretty warm day, and there was a lot going on, so we were just tired. And Bill said, "No, I'm good with where we're at. This is awesome today." And we stopped at the 4th pass basically. And it was a fairly short track day because they were open from noon-ish, getting people in till probably the first time we get to make a lap was 1 or 1:30, and they were only open until sundown. And that happened 7:30ish. So there was only a couple hours there to do stuff.
Not to mention the car that, speaking of people not having their safety stuff set up correctly,
The guy had managed to do a little bit of a hit the wall, do this, and it looked eerily familiar to the one that Nick and the Dirty 30 had in terms of this thing touched the wall in the back and it is spraying fuel and flame everywhere. We were very glad to see the guy get out of it in one piece.
It was,
oh my God, the fire.
Kind of a funny thing was that we were sitting in the staging lanes kind of behind the guy on an earlier pass before this happened. And I go, it's an old Vega. And I go, those cars like to be on the roof or be on fire. That's the two things they always do. And the guy basically tried to put it on the roof because he went up and he was wheel stand on the bumper before it came down. And then he took a turn into the wall and then caught on fire. So I called it right there. That's what I wanted to do. Unfortunate. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but thankfully the guy got out right away, immediately was out, walked around the back, slapped the power button, fire people came over and put the fire out. So all safe, all well. He was well. No major issues there other than they just had to do a little cleanup.
Well, I think it's time to wrap it up, guys. What's everybody think here? It's already 10:03 in my time. We've been over 2 hours. So
one of the best shows ever.
Thank you, Derek Kelly, for getting on here, man. It takes nuts, and we appreciate it. What you do is very entertaining, and we're big fans. We got to get him on, just feature him sometime at the end of a season anyway, just to talk to him, or maybe Mike Lau at the same time. But,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, well, thanks, guys. Stick around. We'll chat a little bit before we're done, and then I will wrap everybody up and kind of take things out. Take care, y'all. All you listeners, we appreciate you being on tonight. All 7 of you. Just kidding. There was like 140 total. Anyway, appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, listening to the podcast download. I'll have it up here in a couple hours, and then we'll talk to you guys next week.